in eastern Pennsylvania and western New Jersey. Guys, back over to you.
And Ed, you know, you had some food from a wedding. We've got some pizza over here now.
You're not the only one, Ed. It may not be wedding fare.
That's it.
But we've got pizza here at the desk.
Got pizza, and it feels nice and warm. So
Yes.
I'll be eating some of that. All right.
And with that,
Thanks,
we go
Ed.
to Pam Cunningham, who's got to be just sick hearing that we're eating nice warm pizza now.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Pam. You're out there in the rain. I hear it's picked up a little bit. You're in Hay Creek in Birdsboro.
Hi, Karen. Hi, Jim. Yes, I'm standing in Birdsboro on the corner of North Water Street and East Main Street, and how appropriate that I'm on Water Street, because if you take a look at the parking lot that I'm standing in right now, when we first got here, it looked dry. It probably wasn't, because as we've been saying, the ground has been saturated. But if you look at it, the water has no place to go. So it's puddling pretty quickly. It's definitely gathering. If you take a look at the light over there, you can see the rain is coming down. There isn't much of there's a slight breeze, but there's not a lot of wind, so this rain is falling down. It's falling down harder than it was earlier, but it's just falling straight down. Now, I did speak with the police chief here in Birdsboro. I spoke to the mayor earlier. Of course, they have an emergency plan in place. The chief says the police are the eyes for that plan, and they're going around and checking on the creeks. Now, there's a creek right up the road here that they are concerned about, Hay Creek, that has in the past flooded, and it's wiped out bridges and that sort of thing. Actually, 4 or 5 years ago, they actually had to evacuate people who lived on Fulton streets. So they are concerned. They're keeping an eye on that. They're concerned that maybe it will come out. Now, the chief says it all depends on what Mother Nature does. He said that if we get anywhere from 6 to 8 inches, of course we'll have problems. If we get 3 to 4 inches, then we won't. So it all depends on what Mother Nature does. They're going to wait and see and adapt as things happen. Now, they are watching the forecast just from us and from around, and they're saying that, you know, obviously the heavy rain is supposed to be coming between 3 and 8 in the morning, and that's when they're anticipating that they're going to have problems. So if there are problems, they're going to be out here, and if they see things that either roads need to be closed down or barricaded, or if people do need to be evacuated, that's when they'll go into full force, and they'll get assistance from the fire department as well. So they're keeping an eye on it. As of right now, the rain is coming down steadily and a little bit harder than it was earlier before. For some reason, we're seeing more traffic out right now than we did earlier. And I know that you spoke to Jim Conrad, and that's not the greatest idea. At this point, you should have all the supplies you need. We know that the rain is going to be coming down even harder, and the wind is going to pick up overnight. So at this point, you should be getting home or staying at a safe place and getting out of this storm, because it is going to start picking up later night and overnight. Reporting live in Birdsboro, Pam Cunningham, 69 News.
Hey, Pam, that creek that they mentioned, obviously that's the primary concern. Did they give you any other spots that they'll be monitoring maybe especially closely in the next few hours?
Not anything in particular, but Hay Creek is the big concern. He did mention to me that the last time they let out Blue Marsh Lake, like they did earlier this week, I guess they did that on Friday. The last time they did that 4 or 5 years ago is when they had flooding here. So they are watching it, because the last time that happened, Hay Creek came over. So I think that's the biggest concern, but they are just keeping an eye, of course, throughout the whole borough.
Yeah, and Pam, you mentioned a lot of folks there on the road. We really noticed the traffic behind you. Compared, there was hardly anybody out there, you know, an hour and a half ago, but folks are heading out somewhere.
Yeah, and I don't know why that's happening. I don't know, maybe because they're watching and they found out where we are, and maybe they just want to get on TV. But it is definitely picked up, and it's not a good idea, because the rain is picking up, so people should be getting home.
All right, Pam, thanks so much. We appreciate it. We'll check back with you soon.
Okay, thanks, Jim.
There we go now to WFMZ's Will Lewis. He has been a roving reporter for the night. He's now at Jordan Creek along MacArthur Road in Whitehall Township, Lehigh County. That's where he said he was heading, and he has made it there now. Will, what can you tell us that's happening out in Whitehall?
Well, I can tell you this, Karen, like Pam said, it doesn't seem like people driving on the roads have been affected just yet. Of course, the rain it's coming down steady, but it's not a heavy rain. So, you know, people are still out driving, and, you know, Jordan Creek is just down the street from the Lehigh Valley Mall. So, you know, people may be finishing up a little shopping, or, like they said, getting some supplies from hardware stores. But right now, just the rain is steady. There's a little bit of ponding over on the roadways, but right now we don't have any wind. The skies, you know, of course, course, are very dark, and it's dark here where you can't really see the creek behind me, but it's running pretty steady. People have been driving by, honking, gotten a couple of splashes just from the ponding on the roadways, but right now it's the people we saw walking. I saw some people out walking. They didn't have an umbrella. They didn't even have on a coat, and we're like, what are you doing? It's time to get inside, start getting someplace where you're safe. But right now, some people, I think, maybe are out saying they walked around in the hurricane, or they're enjoying, the rain, and they're waiting until those heavier bands come in. And, we've heard Ed talk about those heavier bands, and it's one of those times where now people really need to start getting inside so that they can be safe when the rain starts getting a little heavier. But right now, it's just, steady. Like you see right now, I'm still wearing my hood. I took the hood off. It was a little bit of a light rain, then it started coming down a little more. So of course we're trying to stay safe and protect ourselves and keep edge dry as we can. So we're going to head some other places, but just like we've always told people, if you see some problems or something out there, we are going around all the areas. So give us a call. We'll go check it out. We'll see what's happening. But right now we're live in Whitehall Township. Will Lewis and Karin and Jim, I'll go ahead and toss it back to you.
Well, I wonder if some businesses might not even close because of this storm, but not only are the malls still open, you've got some mall traffic going on, huh?
Yeah, it's funny because, you thought we would have came over here and there wouldn't have been a lot of mall traffic or anything, but like we said, people are out just doing their own thing. There's a couple restaurants around where we're at, and people are walking in and out. And right now, it doesn't seem to be affecting people. But we know as this storm starts getting a little worse, those people will probably need to be in the safety of their homes or somewhere safe.
Yeah.
All right, good to hear. Well, thank you so much, and stay safe out there, and try to stay dry as well. And he was mentioning people out and about. I know surfers at this time. Surfers were out on the coastlines along the Carolinas, along the Jersey Shore. Earlier, the Coast Guard had to try to rescue a couple from a sailboat who had been out, taking a ride. So it really ties up emergency services, unfortunately, and takes a chance that perhaps you shouldn't be taking.
I think the obvious thing is you're taking a chance with yourself, but that's the thing I think people don't understand, that it is tying up emergency services. So the message is loud and clear. You got to get inside.
All right, stay with us. We'll be right back.
Happy to see him and maybe even get him on the air as we progress here.
And we do have some video for you with Jaccii Farris. WFMZ's Jaccii Farris is in Easton, and she's at the forks of the Delaware where the Lehigh River meets with the Delaware River. And we did speak with Mayor Panto a little while ago. He was talking to us about those barricades in that area and how he felt that people there were preparing. So getting the same sense now, Jaccii?
Well, I am getting the sense, although you are still seeing people that are walking up and down the street with umbrellas to kind of check things out. You can't see the Delaware anymore because it's just so dark out here. But, folks are still out. They're curious. They're on foot and they are driving. We're going to go ahead and give you a look at Larry Holmes Drive right now. We've got a lot of puddling and that's accumulating on the roads. The rain is really coming down very heavily right now. And this is just the beginning of what Easton is going to be experiencing for the next 2 to 3 days, because while the rain is coming down in buckets at this point, it's going to continue overnight into tomorrow. And we're going to be seeing a little bit of flooding. We're already seeing, as I said, some puddling. But the big news is going to be Monday and Tuesday, whenever things start to accumulate and we get a lot of the rain and the water from the New York area. And on Friday, I spoke to a lot of people that live along Canal Street on the other side of the Delaware and the Lehigh. And those folks really know how to do this. Every time they hear that there's going to be a flood, they clear out their basements. They have it to where they can just unscrew a couple of bolts and put it in the back of a U-Haul and take it to higher ground. Now, as far as getting to higher ground, the city of Easton has sent out some reverse 911 calls to residents who live in low-lying areas, telling them to be prepared to do just that, to pack things up and move to higher ground. And if you're out, like you see a lot of these cars that are out and about, and you come across a barricade, you really want to make sure that you do not go around that barricade, because you do not know what is under that water. A couple of years ago, I covered this huge sinkhole here in Easton that swallowed up an entire side yard and a portion of a house. So sinkholes are a very real possibility, especially whenever you consider the condition of the ground right now. We've had a lot of moisture in the last couple of weeks, and the ground is saturated. So I don't want to use the phrase perfect storm for something like that, but going around a barricade only puts you in harm's way, and it also adds an extra layer of harm and danger to the folks that are out there trying to make sure that everyone is safe. Police, fire, emergency management. If something happens to someone, they get stuck in a sinkhole or their car gets stuck underwater, those folks have to stop what they're doing and come and take care of business for the people that are stuck there. So you want to make sure that you stay home and watch the updates. 69 News is going to be out here making sure that if something's going on, we'll let you know about it. But as far as things here in Easton right now, the rain is really coming down. We've had some wind gusts. And we're seeing, you know, there are still people on the streets, but I think as the evening progresses, they are going to hopefully stay home and stay dry. Karin?
Jaccii, you can see that you're having trouble staying dry out there, but you mentioned those wind gusts. How frequent are they? You mentioned they're coming from time to time. How frequent have they gotten?
Well, we do hits about every 30 minutes, and I'd say there are 4 or 5 as we're sitting in the truck. We'll be talking about what we're going to do for our next hit, and in the middle of the conversation, it's kind of like, you know, someone's on the outside of the truck giving us a little push. It's not dramatic, but I mean, it's a big truck, you know, it's got all this gear and a satellite dish and equipment and everything, and the wind is strong enough to kind of give us the kind of nudge that's very noticeable.
Jaccii, thanks so much. We appreciate you being out there. We'll check in with you again.
Okay. Back, right, Ed?
Absolutely. Yep. Until 9:30 as we move throughout the evening hours, it's not completely out of the question that we could not only see a thunderstorm or severe thunderstorm warnings pop up from time to time, which we'll pass along to you, but also the opportunity whenever you've got some of these bands, there can be some really interesting things happen. A hurricane, a big vortex drawing in different types of air, but also some dry air can kind of mix with that very warm, humid tropical air, and some interesting things can happen. And we're seeing that in Burlington County. Doesn't mean there's something on the ground. It's actually Burlington on into Ocean counties in New Jersey. Be aware till 9:30. You want to be prepared. Obviously, if you're in and around that area right now, again, especially central Burlington County, you want to seek shelter immediately. And it's a type of situation. It means that there's some rotation there with the thunderstorm. Doesn't mean a tornado's on the ground. But until the threat passes, I would encourage you in Burlington County, again, central Burlington County, to seek shelter until 9:30. We'll keep you posted on that. Take a look as far as Irene. Again, obviously this is the big story here, in about 35 miles southeast of Norfolk, Virginia. Winds 80 miles an hour, so a Category 1, 74 miles an hour. That's the threshold. 74 or above, that's when you're talking about a Category 1 hurricane, or at least a hurricane status. And as we move throughout your evening hours, we're going to continue to keep you posted throughout the overnight hours as well. Take a look. This path, the models have done a tremendous job with this storm. There's so many different models, and you have to sort of take the consensus. But this red line represents the path, the most likely path. And now that it's back over open water, made landfall just before 8 o'clock earlier on in the morning hours. I was here giving you updates on that. Hopefully you were able to see that. And, you know, there was some thought that it could decrease in strength. At this point in time, there's no evidence of that. It looks like it's going to continue over the open waters now, just hugging the coast of New Jersey. But because it's such a massive storm, you're talking about tropical storm force winds extending out from the center of that circulation 200 to 300 miles. And hurricane force winds out about 70 to 90 miles. So that's a significant storm as far as what type of an area it is affecting. But the concern now is, obviously, we're going to be talking about flooding rains. That's the concern. Some wind, not going to be dealing with the hurricane force winds likely for a good part of our area. But once you get along the coast, I think you will be there. The concern is, no longer is it, once it gets off the coast, New Jersey, going to move up through Long Island and then into New England. It looks like it's going to go right towards New York City. And the question is, and we really all want to keep at least the situation in our thoughts and prayers. Why? Was because the center of that circulation, it passes east of New York City. they're going to deal with some flooding, and that's a significant deal. It passes west of the city. You're going to be dealing with salt water drawn into Manhattan, and it's a completely different story altogether. And, you know, when you talk about water in the subway systems, that's the reason they took precautions shutting down mass transit. But that is definitely a concern. So we're going to have to monitor the circulation of this, and I think it certainly warrants staying tuned for sure to see not only how it affects us here in our area, but as the storm advances beyond. As far as the totals, again, we're talking about 8+ inches. I certainly think 8 to 12 inches, a good bet along the coast, and then interior portions of New Jersey. Winds 50 to 70 miles interior along the coast, 70 to 90. But that 8 to 12 inches, again, you got to keep in mind, again, this locally higher amounts. I just can't emphasize that enough. 4 to 6 inch amounts here for a good part of our viewing area, and then lesser amounts. Let's switch over now to Cinema Live if we could. Check it out. Again, I want to be able to give you another vantage point. Let me go back to this view here and show you that. Take a look at this circulation. Again, you can see the center of that storm now off the coast. Again, not really any well-defined eye there, but these rain bands. And look at these dark shades of yellow here that are just off to our south and east. We are just now sort of getting in on some of that really dense, really significant rainfall, which will continue to pick up as we go throughout your overnight hours. Heaviest rain falling during the overnight and into the first part of your day tomorrow. And I think that's the same corridor as far as winds are concerned as well. Here you go. You can see this really gives you perspective. And when you're seeing these yellows and even oranges, you can see right there, you can see Ocean County, Burlington County, and that's why you see them lit up in red there. That Doppler radar, I'm just trying to look to see what we're seeing here. Looks like just here, the southern portions, southeastern portions of Burlington County. See that little orange right there? Again, we'd have to zoom in on that, but just to be aware, if you are in the Burlington County area, I would encourage you to seek shelter. In fact, it says till 9:30, but I would say because it's just entering into the county right now, it would likely be for a longer time, so it wouldn't surprise me at all if that would be extended. Doesn't mean a tornado's on the ground, but the conditions are there, and there is some rotation associated with that. But clearly you can see this is all just lifting up and into our area. Winds, again, this is just a taste of what's to come. Philadelphia starting to see some of these numbers jump a little bit as far as the wind gusts in our area. Again, it pales in comparison to what's going to be coming in our area as far as winds. And again, we're not talking about those 100, 110 mile an hour winds, but we are going to be talking about wind gusts that will be significant. And obviously with the ground saturated in the eastern half of our viewing area, because we've had so much rain, you can see. So here's what we've got. Again, 8+, 4 to 6 inch, 1 to 3, but the key here, locally higher amounts. We'll check in on river stage data. That's going to be will be slowly going up, but the river, like the Delaware River, that's going to be probably not until like into the day on Monday as all the creek streams enter into the Delaware River, but we do expect that to see some flood action there as well. Stay tuned. We'll throw you back to the desk and keep you posted as we go throughout your night, the overnight, and as conditions pretty soon. Back to you guys.
All right, thanks, Ed. We have some breaking news for you tonight. WFMZ's Will Lewis, it's all sort of breaking, but he is along Union Boulevard near Conestoga Street in Bethlehem, where a car has gotten into an accident at the train tracks there. And this is, of course, what we've been talking about all night. And Will, you're out there. What can you tell us?
Well, Karin, I can tell you, I know listening to you and Ed talk about visibility, this is what we're talking about right now. As you can see, I'll move out the way. As you can see, the driver here was driving their white sedan, and they thought they were turning on Conestoga Street, and they actually turned on the railroad tracks. The car is stuck on the railroad tracks. Bethlehem police is here responding. We've got a couple of tow trucks here, but right now they're trying to figure out how to get that car off. And actually, as you can see, they're starting to pull the car off. They're starting to drive away. Now, I talked to the driver, and they didn't want to go on camera. Of course, maybe a little embarrassment or what it may be, but what they said is it was dark. They couldn't see. They thought they were making the turn onto Conestoga Street, and they just missed. And boy, did they miss it. Luckily, right now, there's no train scheduled to come down these tracks. The police have now got the car off, and the driver is going to be able to get away or go ahead and leave. We don't know if there's going to be any citations or anything right now. The police are still talking to the driver, but this is exactly what we were talking about with people going from place to place. been needing to get inside before the heavy rains. As we were driving east from Allentown, or from Whitehall Township over here to Bethlehem, we were coming to check on the Monocacy Creek, and as we were going east, the rain was getting heavier. We could see, but you could just tell it was getting heavier, and it was making it a little more difficult. And as you can see right now, the difficulty has led this one driver to end up on the railroad tracks. We're reporting live in Bethlehem. Will Lewis, 69 News.
And just to reiterate, you're there along Union Boulevard near Conestoga Street in Bethlehem. We know you sort of had an eye on the Monocacy Creek as well, and people seem to be worried about that. What can you tell us about Monocacy Creek?
Yeah, we hadn't even really got down there yet, but the water, you can really see the water is, I wouldn't say rising yet. I know that there's some businesses that already have sandbags over by their garage doors or in front of their doors. We're going to go down Conestoga Street and take a little further look, and we will get back to you as soon as possible. But you can see that the water is coming up a little bit. We just wanted to stop here and make sure the driver was okay here. The police officer said everything was fine, and now they've finally gotten their car off the railroad tracks.
Will, you've been roving place to place, and so you have seen conditions worsen with each trip you've made, correct?
Yeah, that's right, Jim. Like I said, you know, when we were over in Allentown, it was maybe a light rain, maybe a little bit steady rain. But as we've started coming east, the rain has gotten a little heavier, and it's not to a point where you can't totally see, but it is getting to a point to where, you know, just get to where you need to go and get off the road, and hopefully you can avoid some situations like what we saw right here.
Especially if you're unfamiliar with those roadways. Do you know if that was someone who was local to this area?
It was. I mean, well, I don't know if they were local. We do know that they did have a couple stickers from Moravian College. Like I said, when we talked to the passenger, the first thing the passenger said was, you know, we just couldn't see, and we made a wrong turn. We thought we were going one place, and we just ended up here, and that's just part of it. I said, well, was it the weather? And she just looked and kind of shook her head and hopped back in the car and didn't want to talk to us any further.
Just couldn't see. That about says it all for right now. Will, thanks so much.
Good evening, I'm Karin Mallett. Irene is storming toward the northeast, packing sustained winds at 80 miles per hour. At least 5 deaths are being blamed on this storm. The winds have been snapping trees and power lines, leaving nearly 900,000 homes and businesses in the dark. Airlines have scrapped more than 9,000 flights scheduled for this weekend. Meanwhile, the Pentagon has told 6,500 troops to be ready in case they are needed for relief work. And we have a reported tornado touching down near Lewes, Delaware. Officials say the twister damaged about 15 structures. There were no reports of injuries. We here are already feeling a bit of Irene's fury. What can we expect in the next couple of hours? Well, as we have all evening, let's head over to WFMZ Chief Meteorologist Ed Hanna. He is standing by for us in the Weather Center with the very latest tonight. Ed.
Thanks so much. It is good to see you. Hope you are doing well. We've got an update as far as the Hurricane Center information is concerned. You can see what we're dealing with here continues to be a Category 1. It is amazing how it's maintained its strength back over open water as far as the center of the circulation, and we are seeing now some of the heavier bands getting into our area. As you can clearly see, gusts up to 100 miles an hour, movement north-northeast 16. This is a good number. All day long as we've been giving you updates, that was 14, so it's moving a tiny bit quicker. The sooner we can get it moving. But it's fascinating, as we were talking about, how far is Irene from the Outer Banks? Well, going all the way back to the Caribbean, but to the Outer Banks, and then Norfolk, Virginia. Now we're talking about 100 miles southwest of Ocean City, Maryland. We can all relate to that. Many of you have been there. Category 1 strength, making its way. It's going to go right on up the center of that circulation, right along the coast of New Jersey. Tropical storm force winds extending 200 to 300 miles out from the circulation. Hurricane force winds extending 70 to 90 miles from the center of the circulation. So that obviously tells you what we're going to be dealing with. Looks like it's going to be heading right towards New York City. The question, does the center of the circulation come on the west side or the east side? All the difference. The west side would be a much worst case scenario. Other than that, Doppler radar, take a look. You can see here come the bands getting into our area. Very, very heavy rainfall. Some of these yellows, shades of yellows, but there's kind of green, yellow, and that's what's going to be happening happening here as we go throughout your overnight hours. I think the heaviest rain and steadiest rain between now and through the morning hours, likely till about noon. The winds will continue to pick up, though, as we get into the overnight hours. And I will tell you what we expect as far as precipitation amounts, winds. But keep in mind the eastern half of our viewing area, it's been an extremely wet month, and the ground is saturated, so flooding definitely worse than it normally would be if it was falling on dry ground. More details coming up, Karin.
Thanks, Ed. As we have been showing you all night, they are keeping an eye on the Delaware River in Easton. Officials met several times over the past few days to put plans in place for the storm, and now as the rain falls, residents will play the waiting game to see how that water will rise. WFMZ's Jaccii Farris has been braving the storm for us tonight, and she joins us live now in Easton with the latest. Jaccii.
Well, I can tell you that the rain has picked up in intensity, and as has the wind. It's very cold and wet. We're starting to see a lot of accumulation on the road. We are on Larry Holmes Drive, next to where the Delaware and the Lehigh meet. I'm going to go ahead and move out of the way here so you can see what's going on. We probably have about, I'd say, 1.5 to 2 inches on the roads. We're seeing less traffic. I think people are getting the message that it's not a good thing to be out. My dad is a retired cop in New Mexico, and he used to always say, nothing good ever happens after 11 o'clock, and that's basically kind of the scenario here on the streets. The rain is just coming down, and you were mentioning all the preparations. The city of Easton has done a really good job. They did a reverse 911 call to everybody who lives in low-lying areas. They're putting up barricades in the trouble spots to keep people away. They've got crews that are roaming the streets to keep an eye out for anything. They've got added manpower out, making sure that if something does happen, that they're going to be able to take care of business. Now, as far as the plan for tomorrow, Mayor Panto says that once we make it through, a rough night of a lot of water, he's going to get together with everybody and try to see what needs to be done to kind of pull the city through Irene and all of her fury. We were watching as the Delaware was just raging in the Lehigh, and there are concerns that there are going to be some very heavy flooding Monday or Tuesday when all the water starts to settle. The people who live on the other side of the Delaware and the Lehigh, they are prepared as well. A lot of them on Friday packed up all of their belongings in their basements, put them in U-Hauls, and were getting ready to move to higher ground. And I think that the way the intensity of the rain and the wind is picking up, that those folks are probably watching and waiting and thinking that that time may be coming soon. Karin?
Jaccii, yes, not all the effects are immediate, so something to remember. Are up on the Delaware River tonight. Yeah,
and Karin, we were talking earlier and speculating. I was saying how the ground is saturated from the Lehigh Valley on east, and the models, the forecasted crest models, would have a very difficult time taking that into consideration. It takes into consideration how much rain we're going to get in current levels, but now the numbers have jumped as far as forecasted crest. That's not great information for folks along the Delaware River. We don't want you to panic, but I want to provide the latest numbers here. We'll get to that, but first, I got to pass along, again, some not great news with things happening here. Tornado warning in effect for the next 15 minutes for Newcastle County, that's in Delaware. So Newcastle County, a tornado was reported. There was rotation, so be aware of that near Pennsville, about 7 miles south of Wilmington, moving west at 30 miles an hour. So Newcastle, again, till 10:15, tornado warning in effect. Take a look. Irene, obviously, just a significant storm. And we're going to continue to talk about these bands. The center of that circulation now just off the coast now. You're getting pretty close, about 100 miles south of Ocean City, Maryland, to give you some sense. The center of that circulation over open water now, but throwing these bands back over our area. And again, we're seeing that gradient. Looking back towards State College, very little, if anything, as far as precipitation. This is going to continue to move northeast. Again, really looks like the center of the circulation is going to go, right off the Jersey coast, right up into New York City as we continue to watch it. Take a look. These bands, again, it's these yellows and oranges where we're talking about very heavy rainfall. And in the case of, look at this, it looks like something was just issued here just moments ago. So this is something we're just going to keep an eye on. It looks like Chester County And that looks like, yeah, Chester and Montgomery counties now tornado warning has been issued. We'll get you more detailed information on that. I want to get to the river stage data, though. Winds real quickly. Obviously, we're going to be talking about very significant winds blowing during the overnight hours. Take a look again as that storm pulls up and away. But let's get to the river stage data. Again, Lehigh River, you can get some sense here of the flood stage. Again, these numbers are going to be going up, and we do expect some flooding there. Generally, at this point, it looks like it's going to be on the minor side, Schuylkill County, or Schuylkill River, rather. You can get some sense here. There's going to be some flooding there as well. But it's the Delaware River. Belvedere, look at the flood stage, 22 feet, some minor flooding there. Easton, though, the flood stage 22, looks like flood crest going to be 32 feet now. It's been increased, only at 5 feet right now. Regalsville, some pretty major flooding there as well. And, of course, Trenton about 5 feet above flood stage. How much rain are we expecting total? 8+ inches, 8 to 12 inches there, I guess, in the far eastern parts of our viewing area. 4 to 6 inches amounts in the Berks Lehigh Valley area, but locally higher amounts. That's significant. Of course, as far as winds are concerned, 30 to 50 mile an hour winds in the Berks Lehigh Valley area, 50 to 70. So obviously with the lubricated grounds and roots, trees could be coming over. So power outages are likely. 66 degrees, windy, and I think we're now in the thick of things as far as rainfall is concerned. It continues now. Bands moving through between now and probably until noon tomorrow. It will start to taper off as we go on throughout the afternoon hours. As far as your 6-day forecast, great news, some spectacular weather for the rest of the work week. We'll be giving you updates all night long and through the day tomorrow. Stay tuned. Back to you, Karen.
Tornado watch that just popped up in southeast Pennsylvania. It includes 5 counties. It's Bucks, Chester, Delaware, Montgomery, and Philadelphia. We'll be right back with sports. That's all for us here at 69 News at 10, but stay with us for more live team coverage of Hurricane Irene.